Oh gosh, I'm sorry, y'all, but I have to get back in here on this thing. Uh, I know I allowed absolutely no time between uploads to actually get back on this thing, but I think I'm on a roll tonight. I don't know. Maybe I'm not going to get any sleep tonight after all because of the fact that I just keep it's really boggling my brain. I'm really beginning to understand now why so many people are just saying that it's hopeless for us as a collective, but for black women especially. And yeah, I know I kept saying I'm not going there. I'm done going there. But like I said, sometimes they just make it so blasted easy. It's just like it's like you're trying to avoid catching a fish, and you're throwing an unbaited hook in the water, and they're just biting at the unbaited hook. It's just as like you don't have to try anymore. They just make it so doggone. Oh my gosh, I think my head's going to start hurting after a while before this whole night's through because it's just I am just really flabbergasted, and yeah, I have to admit that this is as a result, at least this time around anyway, it's as a result of the same person that we're still listening to here in the background. That, as I said, since I don't want to get into any more beefs and drama with anybody, they'll remain unidentified. But I'm just I'm just being having us reaffirming that maybe there really is something wrong with our women. Especially the ones that get wrapped up in this whole church thing now. The paradox and the irony is that this particular person is someone who's coming out of the church or who's declaring that church life messed her up for. Okay, I'm kind of like giving away the secret now because I think people are kind of like keeping track of this whole thing about the whole 23-year thing, but yeah, okay, at this point you know who I'm talking about. But just on a dare, well, not really, but still, I was just kind of like listening in on some of the uploads in the background while, like I said, I was here trying to upload this last thing from this other rant that this same person kind of like got me all worked up over. And it's the same video upload, believe it or not, because I asked my fiance to, hey, shut it off for a while because I really want to get in here and I just want to address this particular point while it's still fresh and burning in my craw. And no sooner do we start the thing back up after I get my upload done and everything, it's like it just keeps, it's like a snowball effect thing with this. How I I really at this point I really am. Well, I don't feel for my people anymore. Let me stop lying. Like I said, I've pretty much just shaken the dust off my hands and shoes, and I've just kind of like moved on because I just don't see it. I'm sorry, and I just never really understood the full depths of just how we lock ourselves into this perpetual state of just pitifulness. It's, and this latest thing that just, ugh, like, what do you say about this whole attitude about, now, of course, this person's saying that they're a former churchgoer, and of course, I can, give you a round of applause there. The next step, of course, is to actually, rather than just tossing it all out, actually finding out what's good and what's not good and just getting rid of the garbage, because you might find out after promoting your do your own research routine, maybe I could extend that same element to you also, in the fact that maybe you're not exactly 100% on the right level. Anyway, I'm digressing, so let me just get back to this whole point, because what had gotten me at this point was in her anti-church or anti-Christianity screed, which, like I said, it's all fair game to me, because I, despite the fact that I have my own Christian beliefs and everything, I'll jump in and I'll rend this whole religious pseudo-Christianity thing, 2 or 3 new ones before I'm done. So I cry no foul in that area where somebody really wants to critique it. If what they're going to do is they're going to expose the BS and not just throw it all into the same category and try to treat it all as it's all guilty of the same stuff. But anyway, let me pull myself back in. But in this instance, she was talking about how she would just heavily and deeply and just so intensely just pray and pray and pray to God, or Jesus as she calls her, that I need a good husband. I need a good man. God send me a good, godly, Christian, God-fearing man, and somebody who reads his Bible, and somebody who's going to be the perfect husband and is going to. And we've heard it all before, and I've heard it so much that it just never really sunk in. I just kind of like, par for the course, that sort of thing. It's you just hear it so much. It's so ubiquitous that it just doesn't have any kind of a ringing effect or anything. But this particular time, I couldn't help but to take notice because it reminded me of a little story that they tell. I think I may have heard it in church or something. In fact, I might have heard it during one of my. In fact, it was during one of my services when I found that most Christianity was total hogwash and BS myself, and found out that actually there is a more true path, if you will. But they've told this story about this person who jumps up on their rooftop trying to escape the flood waters. And while up on the roof, he's praying and praying and praying and praying. God, please save me. I know you're going to save me. I trust you to save me. Lord, please come save me. This water's rising up and it's trying to tear my house down and it's going to sweep me away. So God, please, in your good graciousness, send your help and come rescue me. And while he's busy praying, a speedboat comes by, passes by, sees the man on the roof, and yells out at him, "Hey, you're right. Hey, come, we'll throw you a lifeline. Go grab the lifeline and we'll pull you into the boat." And the guy that's on his roof playing is like, "Thanks, but no thanks, but I'm praying for God to save me." So after a few backs and forths of that, the speedboat goes on, figuring that the guy's not going to leave the roof, but the water's still rising, and it's starting to churn, and it's starting to really start to threaten the man's safety and everything. So he's still praying. He's praying hard. God, come save me, Lord. Oh, please come save me. I know, I trust you. I believe in you. I know you're going to save me, and blah, 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 blah. And while the water's coming up to his waist and he's starting to lose his firm hold on his rooftop, a helicopter flies up overhead, and it drops a line to him and says, "Okay, grab the line. Grab up. We'll pull you up, and we'll get you out of this predicament." And still defiant, the person on the rooftop screams back, "No, that's all right. Thank you very much, but I'm waiting for God to save me. I know the Lord's going to save me, so thanks for your help and your concern and all that stuff, but I'm waiting for the Lord to save me." And it just goes through this, keeps praying until eventually the water just reaches his neck, and then suddenly he can't maintain his grip anyway, and he just gets swept away, and he ends up dying and drowning. And next thing you know, he's up in the clouds of heaven and everything, and he actually gets to meet God personally. And he just, with all this hurt feelings on himself, he says, "God, Lord, why? I mean, I kept praying to you. I kept praying to you. I kept waiting for you to rescue me. Why didn't you come save me, Lord? Why didn't you come rescue me?" And God just talks back to him and says, "I did try to save you twice, and you rejected my help." And that's exactly what this thing about this whole praying for a good man, a whole godly man, is reminding me of. And it finally sunk in. I never really understood the depths and the levels of that kind of intense, God send me a good man. Because it used to be that, and of course it still is, that we tend to attribute all that to like former hood rats, or what's that term that y'all guys use now? This former broke downs, or however. Something, whatever, some former something or other. But I just said that, well, okay, that's the attitude, because that's pretty much what we see a lot of, if not the most of. But then there's that whole other subgroup where it's just like there are a lot of these of our own sisters in there that are really, really intensely driven with this whole church thing, and while they're so busy talking about, "Lord, send me a good man," they're not taking the first step of actually trying to find a good man, or a good Christian man, or a good holy man. I don't know what they're waiting for them to, they're like go up to the offering plate, and theirs is the lucky dollar or something that wins them the lottery, and then the good holy Christian man gets dropped in their lap or something like that. Or, what is it? Are they so wrapped up in church and so wrapped up with pastor? And that's another problem that a lot of black women in the black churches have also, which is probably why a lot of black men really are not paying these sisters a whole lot of attention, because a lot of these women get so wrapped up with pastor. pastor said this, pastor says that, and I always, and shoot, even my own mother was telling me about, how some of her girlfriends, when she goes out with some of her girlfriends, and some news, or they start talking about pastor this, pastor that, and and these are like, already old, and they've kind of like outlived their usefulness, and yet they keep putting this pastor on a pedestal. And just like somebody else had asked, it's like, well, what kind of man is going to want a woman who's going to have to compete for the attentions of a woman who's giving her attentions to another man, in this case a pastor, or whatever. And so all of this to say that, at least as far as these church women go, we're not even talking about the hood rats, or more like the reformed hood rats or something and stuff like that. Yeah, but I'm talking about the ones who don't really have that whole churchy thing going on, but they're still out there lamenting about the lack of good quality, decent men, whether they're businesswomen, whether they're in school, whether they're just kind of like the everyday Jane, just working a regular job or whatever, or even if they are kind of like hood ratty and they just kind of feel like they wanted something a little bit better. What are they doing to try to get that process going? That's the question. Are they taking the first step? Do they know what a good man looks like? And if they do, then what's the problem? Oh, I know what it is. I'm old-fashioned when it's convenient for me, so I don't like the idea of being rejected, so I'd rather do the rejecting, so I want the man to come to me so I can tell him off if he doesn't quite fit the bill and everything. Oh, gee, I'm sorry. Welcome to equality, ladies. So, what's it going to be? Are you going to just keep lamenting the fact that, oh, I can't find a good man because a good man's not coming up to you? And you're just going to sit on your haunches waiting and growing older and older and getting drier and drier simply because of the fact that you don't want to face rejection? Well, gee, guess what? We don't like to face rejection either, which is a large reason why we don't talk to you anymore, which is one of the reasons why, if you'll excuse me, but a lot of men are claiming to be, quote unquote, going their own way because they simply have had enough of the game playing. Now, if you decide you want to stop playing games and you want to decide you want something real and you want something genuine, hey, how about you take the first step? If you're waiting for God to send you a godly Christian man, or whatever you think is a Christian man or whatever and stuff, because like I said, I'll argue the point back and forth. But whatever that means in your mind, hey, if you're not finding it in church and you're sitting around in church all day, every day, all weekend, and you go to the Sunday meetings and the Wednesday meetings and then the Monday night meetings and then the this, that, and the other, and God still ain't sending you that good Christian man, maybe you ought to think about changing churches maybe to where those types of men might actually be at. Does that sound like? Of course it doesn't sound like a plan. What am I saying? Who am I talking to? I mean, I just keep dropping logic bombs and I keep forgetting that they're all duds because they don't explode and they don't have an impact on anybody. Nobody takes note of them. So why am I wasting my time? I don't know. I just needed to vent, and there you go. End of line.